This is London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbot.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laugh.
No, there's been precious little to laugh about this week. Apart from anything else, did you hear in the news just now? Britain has been stripped of its AAA credit rating by a second rating agency as a result of poor growth. We will stay behind after class. Fitch joined Moody's in downgrading the UK to AA+. I don't know, that sounds pretty good. AA+? I could only dream of getting a AA+ at school. That sounds like excellent work. OK, meeting over. Well done, everybody. AA+ we are now to reflect a weaker economic and fiscal outlook. That's caused both the budget deficit and the national debt to soar above earlier forecasts, which tells you everything you need to know about economic forecasts. No one has any idea what they're talking about, especially me. No one should listen to this show. I'm a bit, I don't know, is it just me? Because if Moody's say that they're going to downgrade us, well, you expect it, because they're called Moody's, you know, grumpy, moody. But Fitch sounds like a little happy dog. And they're upset with us too. It means that only Standard and Poor has the UK on the top rating, and that doesn't sound like anybody that you'd want to impress much. Standard, that's average. Poor, well. The downgrade was blamed on the weak growth performance of the UK economy in recent years, partly due to private and public sector deleveraging and the Eurozone crisis. It's the deleveraging what done it. We should have undeleveraged. Any fool know that. And you know why we're in this mess? As I said just before the news. Well, I'll come to that in just a minute. It will come as no surprise whatsoever. This is, of course, is all coming as another damaging blow to our excellent Chancellor, George Osborne.
No!
He's already... I knew it was coming, and it still surprises me. He's already been under pressure from the International Monetary Fund this week to kick-start growth by easing up on austerity. However, Fitch said its decision to place the UK on a stable outlook assumes a continued policy commitment to reducing the underlying budget deficit. Does anybody have any idea what they're talking about?
No.
I wonder if they do. They just, maybe there's a machine, like a computer. They just press a button and, like a sentence with long words that comes out, and everybody goes, oh, yeah, well, of course, that's true. No one has any idea what they're talking about. Fitch said its decision to place the UK on a stable outlook assumes a continued policy commitment to reducing the underlying budget deficit. They're assuming a continued policy commitment. I just assumed that the government were making this stuff up as they went along. Commitment, and in words that appeared to contradict the IMF, it argued that the UK, with its top rating, lost its top rating because there was no fiscal space to absorb further adverse economic and financial shocks. So I think what that means in English is that we'll be fine unless there's something unexpected on the horizon. What could possibly go wrong? Speaking in Washington, George Osborne hinted that he would reject a likely demand from the IMF next Monday to fundamentally alter his £130 billion austerity programme. Asked if it would follow a different... would follow a different IMF plan, he said, it depends on whether you agree with that advice, and also whether you understand it. A Treasury spokesman said this is a stark reminder that the UK cannot simply run away from its problems or refuse to deal with a legacy of debt built up over a decade. Though it's taking time, we're fixing this country's economic problems, which... sounds very much like nothing to do with us. It was like that when we got here. And whose fault's that? That's right, dear Prudence. Here's a keen caller in Watford. Hello, Ian.
Good evening, Nick. I was just thinking, these rating agencies, who is it that would rate them?
Yeah.
Who rates them to see whether they're any good at rating?
I don't think that they are any good at rating, because these are the experts that told us that the subprime problem in America, which precipitated this mess, was of no concern.
I know the whole thing, but which one of the rating agency is the best of the rating agencies?
And we've only heard of 3 of them, but apparently there's just dozens of these people. I'm going to become a ratings agency. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a shoo-in.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think you'd be perfect for the job.
Yeah. Well,
and you can charge a lot of money. I'm sure governments will pay you a load of money to tell them what a good rating agency you are.
Yeah, and on the side, I'll promise to construct a new IT system for them for only £50 billion, which won't work when it's delivered 10 years late.
And then you can also make predictions for what their growth will be in the next 10 years.
Yeah,
that will be another one.
Yeah,
or 20 years.
Yeah, and what the weather's going to be like then too, yeah.
Absolutely. Two for the price of one.
Exactly.
You could do.
I'll do it for free. I'll do it for the Green Shield stamps. Thanks a lot, Ian. Anybody remember Green Shield stamps? What do you mean, no?
No, I don't remember Green Shield stamps. What did they do?
You stuck them in a book.
Why?
Because you could buy cigarettes with them. I may have that wrong. I think that if you smoked Green Shield stamps are appended to cigarettes. I can't remember. I think that if they were, then if you smoked 86 million of them, then you could afford a toaster. You could afford the coffin that they'd intern you with, like an intern. Here's the reason why we're in this catastrophic situation. You're not going to like it. Do you remember that drug nut? He's back. David Nutt, the unfortunately named Professor Nutt, the former government drug czar, has said that the banking crisis was caused by too many workers taking cocaine. And this was the fellow that they sacked after claiming that horse riding was as safe as taking ecstasy. Not riding a horse on ecstasy, but riding a horse was safer or as safe as taking ecstasy. That's what he said. And statistically speaking, he may be right. Professor Nutt said that too many bankers who took the drug were overconfident and so took more risks. He said that not only did it lead to the current crisis in the country, but also the 1995 collapse of Barings Bank. He said cocaine was perfect for their culture of excitement and drive, and more, he said. Bankers used cocaine and got us into this terrible mess. It's a more drug. Well, let's go through the effects, shall we? So, loud, yes. As anybody who's drunk in a bar with those people. The last time I was in a bar with those people, I had to leave. In fact, I was there in 2 bars in different locations, and I came over in the first bar, which was in Chelsea, a lot of stripy, shirted, bellowing men. I came over all class war, and I just had to go, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to contain myself, and not that I would become violent, it's just that I might have an aneurysm. Might burst a blood vessel, you know. Like I almost did on the train coming in. Two kids with their feet on the seats, and that just really riles me. And so I sat behind them, and they were... initially you thought, oh, these are kids that need to be corrected. They don't understand. They're stupid, I thought. And then I heard them speak, and it's all, oh, Mummy's bought me tickets to go to a concert. Oh, Struth. And they were reading a paper in between them, and they'd finished with it, and they didn't just put it on the seat. They didn't put it on the seat opposite them, because their feet were on that seat, and neither did they drop it surreptitiously to the ground. They flung it down the corridor of the train, which made me want to kill them. Is that an overreaction? I thought, well, I could take these kids. I'll correct them. But then sanity prevailed, and I just, I tried to let it go while not having a heart attack. Anyway, back to this nut. Professor Nutt is not a... Oh, well, no, I was going through the list of things that cocaine does, and we'll see if we can twin it with the behaviour of bank. Loud, yes. Boorish, yes. Aggressive, yes. Anything else? Anything else I'm missing out? Shouty, boring, loud, braying people. Yeah, that sounds pretty right. Maybe he's not such a nut after all. Professor Nutt is not a stranger to making controversial claims about drugs. His latest attack is on the government for absurd and insane laws dealing with magic mushrooms and ecstasy and cannabis, which he said were hindering medical research because regulations meant one of the ingredients, psilocybin, which is used to treat depression, was so hard to get hold of. Am I hallucinating, or did I read a report a while ago now that people who come back from wars with post-traumatic stress disorder actually have their condition improved dramatically with the application of ecstasy? I bet my glamorous assistant Amanda wants to look that up straight away. She's looking at me with her eyebrows raised, like, who, me? Yes, unless you're doing anything. Huh? Anyway, this Nutt, Professor Nutt. If only he was called something else, it wouldn't be such an open goal for the press. Professor Nutt was sacked as the government's most senior drugs advisor in 2009 after publishing a paper saying that there was not much difference between the harm caused by riding and ecstasy, riding a horse. Society, he argued, did not always adequately balance all of the risks inherent in it. And this is a perfect adjunct to this argument about the minimum price for alcohol, because the government is backing off saying anything about that or enacting the minimum price for alcohol because they don't want to appear bossy.
What?
They actually said that. Our government doesn't want to appear nannying. Are they joking? We're not laughing. He was Professor Nutt, ordered to apologise to the then Home Secretary, Jackie Smith, who accused him of trivialising the dangers of taking drugs. But he went on to claim that alcohol and tobacco were more dangerous than many illegal drugs, including LSD, ecstasy and cannabis, and was fired after later criticising the moral tone of the government's policy-making. The moral tone of the government's policy-making is there to deflect all criticism of a policy that doesn't work in any country it's ever been tried in, and serves the government well in that it obviates the need to say anything else. Oh, well, it's a moral point. They bang on about the danger to health. Just remember that they're going to knock the minimum price for alcohol on the head because they don't want to appear too nannyish. And to hell with the effect on health. This is Nick Abbot, LBC 97.3. You can text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, Twitch tweet @LBC973, the phone number 0845 6060 973.
This is LBC 97.3.
The interrupt is brought
84850, tweet at LBC973. This is London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbott.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
So already Amanda has made tremendous progress in assisting me with this show, and here it is from... why isn't this working? Huh? Look at this.
Well, that's not my fault, is it?
Oh, I've had
did
trouble.
What you asked.
I have had trouble with computers for like 3 weeks running now.
That's your fault then.
No, it's not my fault.
I think
First
it
of all,
is.
I didn't have a phone, and then I didn't have broadband, and then it came back for like 2 days, and then now I don't have broadband
What did
again.
you do?
Well, I screamed and shouted and wailed. I hate computers. Look at this. It says, the illegal drug commonly known as ecstasy reduces PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, doesn't harm memory and concentration, or induce drug abuse, researchers find. And this is from the 27th of December 2012. Well, at least they have that problem sorted. We can move along now, yes?
No.
No. Anyway, back to this Nutt. Professor Nutt, 61, professor of... This is the longest word I've ever seen, apart from neuropsychopharmacology, which Amanda will be spelling now. Neuropsychopharmacology. Yes? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry, you failed this test. Professor Nutt, 61, professor of neuropsych... It would have to have a double door just to fit his name tag on it. This is at Imperial College London. He said that magic mushrooms, which were banned in 2005, were done so by the Conservatives to goad Tony Blair, meaning that he has to pay £6,000 for a licence, which was, he said, bonkers, or face buying it on the streets, which my ethics committee wouldn't allow. Got some mushrooms. Who sells mushrooms on the street?
Want to score some pot?
Plus, Professor Nutt doesn't look very street. He said the reason we haven't started the study, this is a study into the potential effects, positive effects of magic mushrooms on depression. He said the reason we haven't started this study is because finding companies who could manufacture the drug and who are prepared to go through the regulatory hoops to get the license, which can take up to a year and triple the price, is proving very difficult. The whole situation is bedeviled by this primitive, old-fashioned attitude that Schedule I drugs have never had therapeutic potential. Are people insane that think that? I mean, have they rather overlooked the role of opiates in medicine to manage pain? I want Amanda to get me the address of number 10 Downing Street. What's the address of number 10 Downing Street? I'm going to send them the subscription to the Lancet. He told the Observer, did Professor Nutt, that being prevented on such grounds greatly hinders his research into evidence that psilocybin shuts down an area of the brain that is overactive in depression, therefore potentially blocking negative thought patterns. So when they say that they're concerned about your health, just remember that. Professor Nutt also accused the coalition of having chickened out of minimum pricing on alcohol, a move that has been proved in other countries to curb binge drinking. Pathetic, he said. I mean, the Lib Dems are sensible. They support these policies. Pathetic. That's what he said. That's what that nut said. Enfield, hello, John.
Oh, good evening, Nick. What I would like to say, looking at history, you are aware, of course, that Britain supplied opium to China to control the Chinese, in the beginning of the century.
Yeah, at the end of a gun. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you are aware of that.
Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Well,
hello? Is anybody there?
Yes, I'm still here. Are you hearing me good and strong?
Well, strong.
Yeah, oh, good, right. Well, reverting to cigarettes and so on, that was a source of revenue. That put money into the, into the coffers, the treasury type of thing, until, of course, they discovered that iron, that people were saving for coupons for iron lungs and so on, and they became aware that it caused cancer, so they were shamed in not selling tobacco anymore, but they still allow it to a certain degree. But in regard to other drugs and so on, there is an element in our society that are making a lot of money by selling drugs, the criminal element.
Yes, which makes it very... if you were looking down from space and you didn't know anything about society, you would suspect that governments around the world are actually in cahoots with the criminal gangs that are selling illegal drugs, because they're making billions and billions and billions of pounds. Not remotely interested in a word that I'm saying. It's completely talking over everything that I'm saying. Yes?
Not really, no. I'm just intervening, get my say in before I know I've got a limited time on here.
Okay. More limited than you know. Carry on.
If I say anything about you-know-who, I'd be cut off immediately.
Who?
At the knees.
Who?
Well, you know who.
Who?
The establishment.
Who?
Well, I cannot say. You know that, don't you? And you can't say it either.
I don't know. Have you any idea what he's talking about?
Don't know.
No, we're clueless here, but, no change there.
But, you can't open your mouth. It's not free speech anyway, is it? It's control.
There's no such thing as free speech, John.
No, there isn't. No, it's controlled. It's all controlled. We haven't any real freedom at all, really.
No. I am a robot.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes? Are you still there?
I'm still here. Do you want me to say anything else or not?
Not. That was nice of him to give us the option, Amanda. If any more callers were as pleasant as that.
Oh, bless John.
Just give us the option. That's right.
Thanks for calling, John.
Yes, thanks for calling.
We should be grateful.
Press 1 for more of me. Press 2 to hang up immediately. Press 3 to speak to an operative. Press 4 if you've no idea what's going on this programme. Where's the phone? Press 4 for me. Oi. David Nutt, the former government drug czar, has said that the banking crisis was caused by too many workers taking cocaine. That is what he said. In other news, City of London officials are introducing new licensing rules in an attempt to drive out drug dealing, gang violence and illegal lap dancing clubs. This is in the City of London. Hundreds of pubs and bars used by bankers and traders must sign up to a code of good practice that comes into force this month. It recommends that bar staff swab lavatories and that flat surfaces be removed to stop drugs being snorted there. In bars and clubs in the City of London, where bankers and traders go. See, he's not such a nut after all. It's just the way he's painted in the press. The code also says that premises should have a chill-out area for people suffering the ill effects of drugs or a spiked drink. A spiked drink's so common that every club needs a chill-out area. Well, Amanda's nodding her head.
Spiked drinks?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought
That's
you
not
meant...
common, is it?
Well, I mean, it has been common around Christmas time, hasn't it? But I'm thinking
Not
more of...
common.
I'm thinking of you kind of hypnol-style spikings, not...
But that's not common, surely. Maybe I'm going to the wrong places.
Or the right places,
Yeah, well, that's
Nick.
exactly right. Yeah, maybe I'm going to the right places, yeah. I stumbled into a right place by mistake. The code says that all premises should have a chill-out area.
Groovy.
In 2011, a man who ran a members-only cocktail and cocaine club in Christopher Street was jailed for 3.5 years. The drug was handed out with drink orders at Bar 9, where, I would imagine, bankers and traders met. So there you are. 0845 6060 973. Guess who else takes drugs? Took drugs. Wasn't very good at taking drugs. Have a wild stab in the dark. A celebrity. A celebrity person that you would think, no, not a million years. I would never have guessed it. Do you have any idea who I'm talking about?
I'm getting very nervous about what you're talking about right now.
It's a television personality. A hugely successful, family-friendly television personality.
Good gracious.
I'm about to out him on radio.
I sincerely hope you're not, Nick.
I'm about to repeat what he said in an interview. Guess who it is? A person who was in the
I
news.
am not going to play a guessing game.
It's a person who was in the news just some while ago for saying something he shouldn't oughter about someone who was completely innocent of all charges. It's a person who is on, who used to be a young person's entertainer and has since made the difficult transition into the adult arena on television. Hugely successful, must make millions and millions of pounds. Is this a proper example to the kids today? That is what I am asking. Guess who it is? He's got a drinking problem. That's what he said. Got a drinking problem, takes drugs.
I can't believe you think that I'm going to sit here and rattle off names.
Go on, give us 10 names to be going along with. 0845 6060 973. I do believe that she is chicken. Anyway, I'll come to that very important and vital story in moments. Meanwhile, an update, mate. This is Nick Abbott on LBC 97.3. You can call 0845 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC973. You're listening to LBC 97.3, the time 10:30.
Yeah! Dude!
The least dude-ish person that I can think of is Pip Schofield. Pip Schofield has now hinted for the first time that he dabbled with drugs and has revealed his days of wild partying. I'm sorry, I knew I couldn't get to the end of that sentence without laughing. Days of wild partying. Can you imagine that?
No.
No. He's revealed his days of wild partying while working as a children's presenter for the BBC in the 1980s. The 51-year-old This Morning presenter has claimed that he was a lad. No. Not a lad. and has admitted his frustration at having to curb his wild behaviour as a young man. He said his weakness is booze. He said he never got much into drugs because he wasn't very good at it.
What?
What does that mean? What, if at first you don't succeed, give up? What happened to try again? He wasn't very good at it. I have no idea what that means. He has always maintained a flawless reputation and has since gone on to present adult programmes including talking telephone numbers. He currently hosts four programmes on ITV. Oi. He hosts This Morning, Dancing on Ice, All-Star Mr. and Mrs. and The Cube.
Boring!
Each and every one of them. He's made a career out of being beige and bland and never saying anything interesting, ever. Which is why it was so surprising when he did you-know-what. He's now revealed that he dislikes the spotless reputation that he has with viewers, suggesting he has a volatile temper, often using Twitter to hit back at his critics. Dislikes his spotless reputation. His spotless reputation is, I would imagine, the only reason that he's presenting 4 whole programmes on ITV. Same reason that David Beckham's just got £20 million from Sky. What? Unbelievable. £20 million. Spotless reputation. This is what he does on Twitter. Now, this sounds unusual to me. He says he often uses Twitter to hit back at his critics. He said, I have opinions, I have a temper, I'm hip, I'm with it. I made that last part up. He says, there's nothing that winds me up more on Twitter than people who are stupid and who say the most ridiculous things. What I do, he says... Now, see if you think this is... if there is anything unusual about this. He says, what I do is follow them and send them a direct message saying something that Philip Schofield would never say. Here he is referring to himself as in the third person. And then I unfollow them and watch their outrage and block them. Now, does that sound like a normal Twitter behaviour?
I'd say it's quite unwise Twitter behaviour.
He says, what I do is follow them, send them a direct message saying something that Philip Schofield would never say, and then I unfollow them and watch their outrage and block them. That seems like a very long-winded way around. Why don't you just ignore them?
Yeah.
But that's not all.
Really?
It gets worse than that. He says, I have another secret Twitter account. Because once you block someone, you can't see what they're saying. I have a secret account so that I can leave it a day or so and then occasionally go back and have a look and see if they're still furious. Wow.
Well, I mean, I would say he's got too much time on his hands, but he's got 4 jobs, so we know that's not true.
Yeah, and this is him not on drugs.
Yowza.
That just seems... I'm surprised, Pip, really. I thought you were more normal than that. That sounds like he's spending all day long on Twitter. I mean, just what he's described there would take an hour just to send an insult to somebody. To send an insult and then block them, which would further infuriate them, and then take a sneaky peek at what you doing that would have done to them. That's just... I don't know. It does seem like... that doesn't seem usual. There you go. I'll use the usual, the U word, usual. That doesn't seem usual.
Correct.
Not usual. That's not what I do. I spend about 10 seconds, like every other day on Twitter, just enough to impart some thing that I just thought, which is about right. One thought every 2 days, and then log off instantly. Here's calling Croydon. Hello, Shalini.
Hello.
Shalini.
Hi.
Yes,
Can you hear
Shalini.
me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, brilliant. I'm just calling for what you said about the whole spiking situation. Does it still happen? It happens all the time. I know people that get spiked all the time. I know people that spike other people for fun. Obviously, it's not fun. But, yeah, and the whole cozy corner thing in clubs, that happens now because there is...
The whole what corner?
that it happens all the time. So some clubs do have a corner where people that are on drugs can go and, like, zone out in there.
Yeah. A chill-out area.
Yeah, a chill-out area, that's it. There you go.
But I didn't realise that spiking of drugs was at such epic proportions that...
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. It happens quite frequently.
Well, maybe in Croydon, Shalini.
No, because I actually don't rave in Croydon. I'm a house raver, so I listen to house and rave to, like, minimal house, tech house, electro house. And on the house scene, as we call it, it is very... You're likely to get spiked if you go out and you're not careful.
Well, maybe you should stay in your house.
I don't go out all the time.
And what were those? What were the derivations of house that you just explained to me? Electro house,
electro house, minimal house, tech house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minimal house is my favourite. How about you, Amanda?
Minimal house is not.
Oh, it's the what now? Thanks a lot, Shalini. 0845 6060 973. I think she said that they give out nuts. You know, little party snacks when you go to the house. It's the nuts. I think that's what she said. By the way, just outside my window, it's not great weather, let's face it, but at least it's not snowing anymore. There's a squirrel outside my window who is thrilled beyond measure that his nuts have unfrozen. Some texts and emails. Are there any? Nick, the ratings agency are paid by the banks that they rate. It sounds crazy, but it's true. The words conflict and interest come to mind, says John. If the banking crisis was caused by traders snorting cocaine, how come the music and the entertainment industry hasn't collapsed in a similar way? Well, bands who make albums... See, certain drugs don't mix well with making music. Now, there's a certain Brit-pop band, one of the two really big ones, who were particularly famous for taking a lot of cocaine, and I think that they admitted as much, like, frequently in interviews. And they said one of their latter albums was made on cocaine. It was terrible for that reason. Every track just went on and on and on, like 6 or 7 minutes long. This ponderous, like self-indulgent mess, and that was the reason why. It's like other drugs, supposedly, lend themselves to making great albums. Like heroin, for instance. There's a lot of great rock albums are made on heroin. Just ask the Velvet Underground, and there's massive amounts of names. The Rolling Stones. Shall I name them all?
Please don't.
Acid. You probably wouldn't ever get down to work, though, would you? You'd be looking at the mixing desk, going, "Wow, so many faders." And then Marijuini. Oh, by the way, Storm Thorgerson's died. You know who Storm Thorgerson is?
No.
Oh, get out! You're fired. Lady with a hand in the air.
Is it a gladiator?
Storm Thorgerson has died, aged 69. He floated a giant inflatable pig over Battersea Power Station to produce the cover for Pink Floyd's Animals. He conjured up the dreamlike but decidedly creepy image of blonde-haired, naked children climbing the Giant's Causeway for Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. And more recently he created the image of 4 men playing cards in the desert for Muse's Black Holes and Revelations. Storm Thorgerson aimed to encapsulate in his art what bands were trying to say in their music. This is the obit, clips of it from the Telegraph, I think I took this from. Thorgerson became best known for his association with Pink Floyd, and in particular for the uncharacteristically simple cover he designed for the group's classic 73 album, The Dark Side of the Moon. There is no dark side of the moon. As a matter of fact, it's all dark. This featured the stark image of a prism refracting light against a black background. Storm Thorgerson had known some of the band members since his Cambridgeshire school days, and went on to produce some 16 album covers for them, with the notable exceptions of The Wall and The Final Cut. Does anybody actually listen to The Final Cut? I mean, I've got it, but I'd never, ever, ever listen to it. Storm Thorgerson insisted on doing almost all of his photographic shoots for real, largely ignoring the advent of digital technology. For Pink Floyd's A Momentary Lapse of Reason, he recruited 4 tractors and 30 helpers to assemble 700 heavy iron hospital bedsteads on a Devon beach. It took 6 hours, and when it rained, they had to take the beds away again and repeat the whole process 2 weeks later. That was done for real, that cover. The giant inflatable pig on Animals escaped from its moorings, floated to 18,000 feet, where it nearly gave the jet pilot who radioed in the sighting a heart attack, and was later found terrorising livestock by a farmer in Kent. For the cover of Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, he photographed 2 men, one of whom was on fire, shaking hands, recalling later that although the burning man was wearing an asbestos suit and an asbestos wig, when we set him alight he was unfortunately facing the wrong way, as regards to the wind. That's an image that I liked for so long, and I didn't sort of put 2 and 2 together, but, part of the album is about how dreadful is the music business, and they were doing a deal, like one man shaking hands with another, one of whom is on fire, and he's getting burned. Get it? I never put 2 and 2 together until I heard him say just that, just relatively recently. Despite bringing Thorgerson acclaim, the Dark Side of the Moon cover never ranked among his favourite designs. He always much preferred the image of the Frisian cow on the cover of Floyd's Atom Heart Mother. He said, "It's not the attitude of the cow herself, who seems to be saying, 'What do you want?' out of curiosity rather than aggression," he explained, "but the whole nonsensical what the bleep is an ordinary cow doing on the front of one of the world's most progressive psychedelic albums." I always thought from that moment on, I've always thought that cows look surreal. There's just something a bit funny about the way a cow looks. And he said, and more blasphemy, there was no title, no name of the band, anywhere to be seen on the cover. And as well as his work for Pink Floyd, Thorgerson designed covers for many other rock artists from the 70s and 80s, including Genesis, Peter Gabriel and Led Zeppelin. And throughout the 80s and 90s, he made promotional pop videos for Floyd and many other recording artists, including 10cc and Robert Plant. Kajagoogoo. Oh, no. Big Country and The Cult. In the latter half of the 90s, he worked on album covers for such bands as Catherine Wheel, Fish and Ween, amongst others. His creativity was not dimmed by the arrival of the CD, and his design for Pulse, the Pink Floyd live CD, featured a flashing light on its spine. Mine lasted for about a year before it went out. There was probably no other designer who would have had the nerve to provide Led Zeppelin's In Through the Outdoor with 6 alternative sleeve designs and then cover the whole package in a brown paper bag so that it could not be seen. Because after Physical Graffiti, I think the record company, or Storm Thorgerson, one of the two, said, it doesn't matter what the cover is for the new Led Zeppelin album, we could put it in a brown paper bag and it would still sell. And so that's exactly what they did. And on the inside... And it took, and I didn't realise this until years after, when I was listening to an interview with the Storm Thorgerson. And if you have the album In Through the Outdoor, Led Zeppelin, on vinyl, then you might like to try this. If you open the inside of the cover, there's a picture of a fella in a bar. If you wet your finger and rub it, the black and white image becomes colour.
Yowza.
Groovy, eh? And that's something that you would just find by accident, by spilling something onto the cover, yes?
I was about to ask, how come you ended up wetting your finger and rubbing it on the
Well,
picture?
because I heard Storm Thorgerson in an interview saying just that.
Okay.
And I'd owned that album for about 15 years before I realised that it was actually something that you could colour in by just wetting your finger and rubbing it over it, in it. So there he is, gone. 0845 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3.
As a landlord, I let my property with all the... This is London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbott.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Yeah, so I was talking about Pip Schofield and his kidding on that he used to be a lad. Right. And the fact that there's 4 programmes that he presents on ITV now. There can't be another presenter who's working as much as he. And I was thinking, why? And then this came along. David Beckham is being paid £20 million to work as a Sky television ambassador. Whatever that is. What is that? You mean just appear in their adverts? Is that what that means? He's a spokesmodel. The deal demonstrates how seriously Rupert Murdoch's network are taking the challenge to their football coverage from BT Sport, who launched this summer. BT are understood to be paying Tottenham's Gareth Bale £2 million over 3 years to be their key football ambassador. Well, that's a huge difference. 20 million over 5 years, or 2 million over 3 years. Sky's response has been to bring in Beckham at a cost of more than £4 million a year, one of the most significant deals between a broadcasting company and an individual because of the size and scope of the agreement. And then I got to thinking, well, is there anything similar to the two? I mean, why should they be both so popular? Is there another presenter on television who is more popular than little Pippi Schofield? Apart from that gardener. You know, the gardener.
Oh, Alan Titchmarsh?
Yeah, whatever.
Bit dismissive.
Right, yeah, exactly. Is there anybody else on television who's more ubiquitous than those two?
Not currently.
No, I can't think of anybody at all.
Jimmy Carr, he's on quite a lot, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to avoid anything that he's on, so I've got no idea what he's on. But let's discount him for a moment, because
he's definitely not as popular as them.
So what twins those three? Philip Schofield, Alan Titchmarsh and David Beckham.
David Beckham's in a league of his own, though.
Yeah, but in what regard? Oh, just because you find him so dreamy. That's not what I'm talking about. I thought, well, okay, good looking, all right. So David Beckham is good looking, but there's loads of other footballers who are good looking, and they're not making £100 million a year. I mean, he is the most well-rewarded sports person ever, isn't he? I don't think anybody's earning the kind of money that David Beckham is earning. And he's not earning it on the pitch, or rather, he's not earning it for his prowess on the pitch. He's earning it for his ability to sell shirts and whatever else he appends his name to. Perfume and pantaloonies and all that other stuff. So it's not just that he's good looking. That can't be it. He dresses well, but all you need to dress well is to have money and a stylist. I mean, I don't believe for a second that he thinks up all that stuff himself. I mean, it would take you all day just to think of it. I mean, he comes out, he dresses in something new every day. I mean, for a start, you'd need to go and buy the stuff. It would be a full-time job. So he must have teams of people bringing stuff to him and then making sure his hair's right. And it must be like building a car from scratch every time he leaves the house. So that's not it either. Is it that he's nice? Well, you'd say that all three do have a little bubble of niceness around them. And that definitely helps. I mean, it helps that he's not a drunken wife-beater. Like a lot of football heroes that I could mention. Let's list them in alphabetical order. So that definitely helps. But I think I've actually nailed the reason that David Beckham is as successful as he is. And all these things help. He's good looking, he dresses well, and he's got great hair, and he's nice. But I think that the crucial thing that helps is that in a country that treats intelligence with suspicion, he seems a bit thick. And I mean this in a nice way, because obviously he isn't thick to have made that kind of money. I mean, there's a certain smarts there, but he doesn't appear as though he's smart. He's unthreatening, and he never really says anything that you'd remember for longer than it takes him to say it. I mean, can you remember anything that he's ever said on any subject? You see, Catherine Middleton has got the same thing going on. Doesn't appear too bright, never says anything of any interest whatsoever. She'll go far. And I think that's it. It's that we're not concerned that he's going to outthink us. No, he could do, but he doesn't look like or sound like somebody who would. I mean, for a start, it's very much like that. He's very much kind of like a baby. That you can just project whatever you want onto him, because he's like a blank sheet. I mean, how old is he now? How long has he been in the public eye? It's like about 20 years, something like that. In all that time, can you remember one single thing he's ever said? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the secret to success. Never be interesting at all. And you too will be presenting 4 programmes on ITV, and be playing on the wing for a PSV, whatever their name is. What are their name? I don't know, some French thing. Who cares? That's not why he's successful. That's not why he's getting all this money. That's not why Sky are giving him £20 million, which is probably, like Boris Johnson would say, chicken feed for David Beckham. That's nothing. He'll just add that to the 20 or £100 million that he gets every year for doing all of the stuff that he does. And it's all because I suspect that he's crafted an image, or his people have crafted an image of him being just not that bright. Just nice and pleasant and just kind of like a baby man. I think that's what it is. The same thing with Pip Schofield. He's never said anything interesting. Well, once. And he almost got fired for it. Just once. Other than that, completely uninteresting in every regard. And that's what it takes to be successful in this business. Because they're all in show business. David Beckham's not a sportsman. He's in show business. But then you have the other end of the scale, the people who are popular more fleetingly for being controversial, I can't say it, controversialists. And that would be your Frankie Boyle and that guy who squeezes himself into teenagers' clothes with the big hair. What's his name? Brand. People like that. They shine bright, but then are extinguished. The key to a long career in show business in this country is never to say anything interesting about anything to anyone. And you're welcome. By this time next year, you'll be a millionaire. Gosh, I'm exhausted. Just before we go to the news, I wonder if I have time for this. That terrible thing that happened in Boston. And it did make me think, because I did see the tiniest news story before the Boston story broke, and that disappeared immediately. The Boston story swept all before it. And I thought, well, what else happened in the world that was not reported? How many people died in Boston? It was 2?
2. Yeah.
2, right. On the same day, Syrian warplanes dropped bombs on a residential district which left 20 dead. Activists say an average of 120 people get killed daily in violence and clashes across the country in Syria. On the same day as the Boston bombing in Iraq, in the western city of Fallujah, a suicide bomber drove an explosives-packed car into a police checkpoint. Over the next several hours, attackers would detonate more than 20 sets of explosives, most of them car bombs. By the time it was all over, shortly before the Boston bomb struck, 55 people were dead and well over 200 wounded. And in a day or so later, a suicide bomber blew himself up inside a Baghdad cafe, popular with young people using the internet, killing at least 27 and wounding dozens more in one of the worst single attacks in the Iraqi capital this year. In Somalia, a well-planned complex assault involving 2 car bombs and 9 attackers, including 6 suicide bombers, aimed primarily at Somalia's Supreme Court complex on Sunday, killed more than 30 people. This is all on the day or a day or so before or after the Boston bomb. In Bahrain, a series of 4 small explosions occurred in rapid succession late on Sunday amid a wave of protests seeking to embarrass officials before the Formula One auto race. In the Central African Republic, a mortar shell killed 4 worshippers when it struck a church in the capital on Sunday. They were among 20 people killed over the weekend amid ongoing violence since rebels took the city of Bangui and targeted killings, arbitrary arrest, detention, torture, recruitment of children, rapes, disappearance, kidnappings, etc. and so on, all happened in the South African Republic. In Afghanistan, 8 members of the same family were killed on Monday when a trailer towed by a tractor in which they were riding struck an explosive device in southern Afghanistan. They were among 14 killed across the country on the day the Boston blasts hit. And Pakistan has been hit by a spate of violence related to the country's upcoming election. On Monday, gunmen on a motorcycle killed supporters of an independent candidate running for election. A bomb on Tuesday hit a convoy of vehicles carrying another candidate, killing 3 and wounding 7 others. Another bomb attack, same day, killed 1 soldier and wounded 4. And those stories you heard nothing about at all. Not one word, I bet. Despite the fact that almost all of them happened the same distance away from London. They're all about 3,000 miles. They were just 3,000 miles in the wrong direction. Having said that, I do hope they catch this guy they're searching for in Boston and put him through a meat slicer.
On FM, online and digital radio, London's biggest conversation. This is...
Orky/Dorky.
Get some texts and emails. You can text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's at lbc973. This one says, 1. Is that all we got? 1. One text.
One text.
Oi. You know, if I hadn't seen the ratings, if I didn't know that there were people out there, I'd be concerned. Wouldn't you?
You need to ask a few questions.
Well, I can't think of any questions to ask.
I put 2 on the screen for you.
Yeah, but I don't
which you've
like
ignored.
them.
You don't like them?
Well, I just... It sounds like this show would get boring really quickly. Not that I'm...
OK, you read your one text then.
No, let me read your questions.
No, I've deleted them now.
Well, I'll undo it. See? It says, should employers be able to test for drugs?
Well,
Don't they have a right to know if employees take drugs?
Oh, and the phones are ringing already.
Well, not for that, though. That was too quick. I've just said it. That's a wrong... I bet that's somebody calling it to see if we want to make a PPI claim. I got one of those. Somebody woke me up at the crack of 10 a.m. with a recorded message saying, do you want to press 1 if you want to make a claim, press 5 if you don't. And I thought that sounded like a scam. So I pressed nothing, and they just hung up on me. But they woke me up at 10 in the morning, Amanda. And so I complained about them.
Which day was this?
I don't know. What difference does that make?
You don't know, and it was 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you live like a teenager.
Well, no, I mean, I work late.
Only 2 nights a week. So unless they rang you on a Saturday or a Sunday, which is why I was asking which day, then you should have been up and about.
You're not taking my side on this. I can't believe it. So I complained about them because my name is on the list that says no, whatever that list is. You know, the list that says
No.
Don't call me under any circumstances. That's what that list. Unless you're my mum. That's the only person who ever calls me on a landline. Yeah, you can actually complain to the. I wish I'd written it down now. The Office for. I can't remember what it is. The Information Commissioner's something or other. And so I did. That'll work. This says, hello, Nick. Cows. On the subject of cows. You remember the cartoonist Gary Larson of The Far Side? Well, yes. Is he dead? The Far Side is still being made. He is dead.
I believe he passed away, yeah.
Did he?
I'm going to check, but I believe so.
Well, hang on a minute. I haven't finished reading that message. It says, the cartoonist Gary Larson of The Far Side, he was once asked why cows featured so prominently in his work, and he replied that cows were funny. Even the word cow he thought hysterical. Well, they are. They're a funny shape, apart from anything else, and they just seem... I've always thought they look surreal. Great big squares of mobile meat. And their bottoms are at a right angle to the rest of their body. That's just weird. The cows are strange. It's just a fact. You're going to have to accept it. I was having a conversation just before the Boston thing went off with a friend of mine. We were sitting outside a place in the centre of London. We were having a drink, and somebody went by, and they looked like one of these scam artists who shakes a tin, claiming that they work for a charity. It didn't look like it to us. It looked like a scam artist to us. And he gave us such a glare, and he was a massive bloke. When we said, no, I'm sorry, mate, you know, this is my default answer to anybody that ever asks for some spare change. No, I'm sorry, I haven't got any. And they usually just carry right on. And in the back of my mind, I think, well, You know what? If I was so desperate that I was pretending to be working for a charity and just asking for some spare change, please, I think there would be a point after which I'd just take the money. I mean, we were sitting at a table that was full of drinks, and I thought, well, what's preventing him from just taking the drinks off our table? I mean, what are we going to do? Soft southern types, such as we were. And this friend of mine was poo-pooing the notion, oh, no, people get along, and I was trying to persuade him that it's incredible that people actually do, that people don't drive on the pavement and they stop for red lights and they aren't hitting each other randomly in the street. And he said that my concerns were a nonsense and that such things would never happen. Because we have the getting along with each other gene, which is the reason that, one of the reasons that we are so successful as a species. We're number one because we have a cooperation gene. And once we can cooperate to repel any potential danger, then we start fighting in amongst ourselves. But we will stick together as one if we're being attacked by, lions or whatever it might be. And I said, well, I just find it astonishing, really, that so many people can be packed so close together, and it to be news if we don't get along. If people start hitting each other on a bus, that actually makes news rather than it just being the completely common and normal event. And he just wouldn't buy that this might happen, and that I found it surprising that with all of the things that we've had last year, all the public events that we had, and the Queen's big thing, and the Olympics, and all the rest of it, that there weren't like terrorist outrages during the course of all that. And it certainly wasn't because of greater police numbers, because how are you going to stop it? And he just he poo-pooed the notion that such a thing might happen. And then, of course, as by the time we got home, the news of the Boston thing came up. And I thought, well, ringing him and saying, I told you so, would be would not be the thing to do under the circumstances. But I thought about it. And on the way home, having discussed the notion that it's kind of surprising, really, that people in desperate straits are asking for spare change, please, rather than just taking it, we passed by a person who was asking just that. And as is our wont, as is my common response, we just sort of said, no, sorry, mate, we haven't got anything. And he proceeded, this guy who was sitting on the street with his hand out, he proceeded to go berserk. And started screaming at the top of his voice that all he wanted, I just want 75 pence. And as we receded, picking up our pace just ever so slightly so as not to appear as though we were running away, but actually quite speed walking, the volume became louder. And I thought about saying, well, I told you so, but I restrained myself. I do find it surprising that we are getting along. And yet, this news came in. Romanian travellers have descended on Park Lane again. Suitcases in tow, they've taken over a patch of grass near Marble Arch, and it's feared they may set up a camp. A 40-strong band did exactly that a year ago, turning the site into a rubbish dump and being accused of knife-point robberies and other crimes. See, that's the part that I don't understand, that I don't get, doesn't happen all the time. I mean, if you, Amanda, were sitting in a shoe shop doorway without a thing to your name, asking uninterested people for some spare change, and you weren't getting any, what are you going to do? Just sit there and starve to death, or are you going to take someone's money?
Oh, you actually want me to...
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's
guilty.
A hypothetical question, isn't it? Because I'm lucky enough not to be in that position.
No, but you would, though. I mean, you would not starve to death. You'd take somebody's money. You just would, right? I would. What, you'd just politely pass away? No, of course not. Yesterday, Richard Owen, who has a burger van at Marble Arch, said the new arrivals were bad for tourism. Well, well, so's a burger van at Marble Arch. Am I missing something? Or is that being unkind? He said he'd just seen two Romanian... You're going to like this. He'd just seen two Romanian women pull their skirts down, squat down, and go to the toilet. They walked to the toilet with their skirts down. Oh, I see. He said, there were tourists going by on those open-top buses. People everywhere. They didn't care. It was absolutely disgusting. That is what he said. He said...
Disgusting.
He said the police don't seem to be doing anything. All they seem to be doing is going up and checking passports and then just letting them go. You see, to me, it's surprising that people are asking for spare change, they're not just taking it. Because what are we going to do? We've got much more to lose than they have. They've, almost by definition, got practically nothing to lose. Are you going to stand up and repel their advances? Of course not. You're going to if you're anything like me, you'll scream like a little girl and run away. Tony Carlozzi, 31, on holiday with a friend from New York, said that she saw one group urinating in the underpass. He just looked at me. He was drunk, she said. I couldn't believe it, and I'm from New York. I don't know why the police don't just lock them up. That's what would happen in America. Well, and having been to New York on several occasions, she can't be she can't mean the same New York as I'm meaning. Because I was stunned to find people doing exactly that. They even made a song about it. Grandmaster Flash, people bleeping in the streets like they just don't care.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that? Grandmaster Flash. They've been begging, it's intimidating, it's the sort of thing that would put me off coming to London, said the New Yorker. And I know exactly what she means. It's like those bands that set up on the bridges at Embankment on the South Bank and ruin many a summer's day spent drinking outside the the Royal Festival Hall. That constant racket from bands who are allowed to set up on the bridge, along with those people that sell sticky nuts. Why are they allowed to be there? And something that I saw for the very first time in just around the corner from here, just outside the National Gallery, and it looked really... They looked kind of intimidating. It looked a bit like, well, what was going on here? There was maybe a dozen people who had just spray-painted their ordinary clothes gold. You know those buskers who are statues? They pretend to be statues, and normally they'll make something of an effort. You know, they'll dress up like a robot or like a Roman emperor or something like that, and they'll look, you know, pretty good from head. I can't stand them myself. It's just standing still for a living. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you give them money? But these people, they look like they just got off a mode of transport, whatever it might be, from somewhere else. They did not look like locals, and they were in a gang. There's maybe a dozen or 20 of them, and they were all standing in a line with maybe 10 yards in between them on the north side of Trafalgar Square, and they had just sprayed their ordinary street clothes with gold spray paint, and they were just standing there, and they'd all used the same paint. It was just so strange, and it looked kind of like, oh, this is a gang. This is kind of intimidating. And there were no other buskers around. I would have guessed that. They made them depart, quick sharp. And then I go around the corner to, I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was London's fashionable Leicester Square. And there was more people in exactly the same get-up. I think we've been invaded. So there's something for the police to... there's a couple of jobs right there. The bans on the Embankment bridge, the people selling sticky nuts, and these cheaply made-up gold people. You're welcome. If you need any further details, then I'm available on 0845 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3.
This is LBC.
What number are you calling from?
0845 6060 973. Help, we're being attacked by a shabby gold army. This is calling Manchester. Hello, Christine.
Oh, hello. Good grief, you lot, you don't have to go on.
You lot?
You lot on LBC, I listen to you all the time, but sometimes you just drive me around the bend.
Well, turn us off then, Christine.
The last time I heard from you, I think it was the Olympics. Anyway, I think we're on a different subject tonight, aren't we?
Then?
A couple of subjects, 2 or 3. The first one was boring people, was it?
Christine, what are you talking about?
There?
Well, I'm deciding whether I will be. What are you saying, dear?
I'm saying two things. First of all, you were talking about boring people on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, they are pretty boring, the people you mentioned. David and David, you know, and his wife, yeah. Oh, I think they want me to talk about something serious, though. You know, I think we should get people like Will Self on. People more controversial.
This call you put through to me? 0845 6060 973. As soon as we need some advice, Christine, then I'll give you don't call us. We'll call you. 0845 6060 973. This message says, I was in Piccadilly Circus today and I saw 4 gold people. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. I'm concerned. Not as much as I'm concerned about bankers not being in jail. And I'm not the only one. Britain's chief financial regulator, Andrew Bailey, no less a personage than Britain's chief financial regulator, has said that it's more than odd that the chairman and chief executives who are at the helm of the failed banks have avoided formal charges. More than a little odd. That is what he said. The chief executive of the Prudential Regulatory Authority, the PRA, said that it was a source of some surprise to him that the authorities have brought cases against junior bankers, but not senior directors. Speaking at a conference in London, Mr. Bailey said that it was not the job of the regulator to say if individuals should go to prison. Well, I'll take that job then. They should all go to prison. But he said it's, to my mind, a very striking observation and difficulty with the crisis that no formal action has been taken against any chief executive or any chairman of a failed institution. Not because I have a personal vendetta against them, he said, but it's more than odd that action has been taken against people lower down institutions but not at the top. I don't know, it's hard to tell in print, but whether he's being sarcastic or not. Is he being sarcastic? Hard to tell. More than odd. Totally predictable, I'd say. He told this summit, it's a Future of Financial Services summit. I wonder if they were playing the Death March as they all came in. The Future of Financial Services summit, he said that Barings directors had been struck off after the bank was brought down by Nick Leeson, the rogue trader. He said they did not like that, but it happened. And it's been the source of some surprise to me that it has not happened in the wake of the crisis to date. Never mind about being struck off. What blooming difference does that make? They've already made their money. He did, however, say that Vince Cable's announcement to investigate a boardroom ban for the 3 former bosses of HBOS, Lord Stevenson, Sir James Crosby and Mr. Andy Hornby, in the wake of the parliamentary report into the collapse of the bank, he welcomed Vince Cable's announcement to investigate a boardroom ban. Big deal. Boardroom ban. That's about as weak as a punishment as I've ever heard. I mean, Uncle Vince wants to sentence them to putting their feet up for the rest of their lives and counting their money. Mr. Bailey said, this Britain's chief financial regulator, Andrew Bailey, he said that he had been told that bosses were protected so far because there was a problem with the trail of evidence that could convict a chief executive. He said that if this was the case, then it was evidence of a flaw in the system peculiar to banking that allowed bosses to delegate responsibility as well as tasks. Well, it's not peculiar to banking because another organisation works in exactly the same way. It's called the mafia. Chuka Umunna, the shadow business secretary, said some bank bosses should go to jail. Particularly in respect of the LIBOR rigging scandal, he said, it seems to me that we will not rebuild trust with the public or effect a culture change in finance until custodial sentences are imposed on those guilty of criminal wrongdoing. Well, I think he's whistling up the wrong tree if he thinks that the public will ever put their trust in banks again. We're just mad that they have insinuated themselves into our lives to such an extent that we can't do without them. That's what's infuriating about banks. We can't do without them. It's like ivy gripping a wall. Pull the ivy down and the wall comes down too. Mr. Amunna said that Barclays' decision to announce £40 million of bonuses on budget day when the focus was on austerity sent, what he said, all the wrong messages. And he's wrong. It doesn't. It sends the right message, by which I mean the true message and not some PR-varnished sham message about having learned lessons and being contrite and all of that guff. It is the correct message, as in the true one, to announce £40 million of bonuses on budget day when the focus was on austerity. It's the correct message. Meanwhile, Richie Rich has cashed in his chips. Speaking of Barclays, their top investment banker has left a month after scooping an £18 million bonus. £18 million. Casino banker Richie will be cashing in his chips with another 700 grand payoff. The scandal-hit bank confirmed that the fat cat will retire aged 49 at the end of June as part of its clear-out of the old guard. Richie, a name so cartoonishly apt you'd think that I'd made it up, but I didn't. In a move described as a final insult, Barclays confirmed that the former right-hand man of Bob Diamond will receive a £700,000 golden goodbye. A goodbye. Mr. Ritchie could also be eligible for millions of pounds in share bonuses awarded in previous years, subject to determination by the bank's remuneration committee. You get pay, these people get remuneration. Mr. Ritchie has become a lightning rod for public anger over fat cat pay and the risks associated with casino banking, particularly since Mr. Diamond was forced to quit last summer. He resigned in July in the wake of the bank's £290 million fine for rigging crucial LIBOR interest rates, for which no one went to jail. No one went without supper, no one had to go to bed early. Can you think of any other business that would receive a fine of £290 million and no one would be done for it? Other members of the old guard, including Chairman Marcus Aegis, Jerry Del Missier, who ran the investment bank alongside Richie Rich, have since fallen on their swords, with Mr. Del Missier receiving a leaving package worth £9 million. I mean, this is all in addition to the gigantic sums that they were earning while all of these shenanigans were taking place. Confirmation of Ritchie's departure came just 4 weeks after the American scooped an £18 million shares jackpot on budget day, March the 20th. And Barclays were criticised for sneaking out the details on the same day that Chancellor George Osborne...
No!
It just makes me laugh every time. I'll get over it eventually, but not yet. That's when the Chancellor delivered his speech to the Commons about, everybody must tighten their belts. Right. And he's that nice fellow that you've seen on in the newspapers. Smiling, grinning. I bet these people wake up laughing. Over the past few years, Richie Rich has consistently been one of the highest paid bankers at Barclays, netting £44 million in pay and share bonuses in 2010 alone. Business Secretary Vince Cable criticised the huge awards lavished on Richie Rich during his career at the bank. He said the sheer scale of his earnings sits uncomfortably with what many small businesses are going through, having been badly let down by banks such as Barclays, who missold financial products, causing enormous damage that's still being felt. And once again, if you cheat someone out of their savings, you're guilty of theft, and you will go to prison. If you do it by selling them some financial product they don't understand and that was not good for them, you are guilty of mis-selling, and you will be knighted for services to the financial industry. But we're all in this together, and blah, blah, blah. 0845 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3, the time 11:30.
This is London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbott.
What in blazes goes on inside that head of yours?
Oh, you don't want to know. 0845 6060 973. Here is a call in the Liverpool area. That's very vague. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, you were talking about the banks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to know why they weren't prosecuted. The reason is because they're exempt from prosecution.
Why? Because they have all the money.
Also, yeah, in a nutshell, because they don't fall under the jurisdiction of this country.
Rubbish.
Could you name who the Lord Mayor of London is?
What his name is? No idea.
Yeah. You know the Mayor of London?
Yeah, Bozo the Mayor. Mm-hmm. Bonobo the Mayor, yeah.
Okay, well, did you know what the City of London Corporation is?
Yeah, it's a shill for the banking business.
Yeah, it's also, do you know what the Vatican is in relation to Italy?
What is this, 20 questions? It's like University Challenge.
Well, I'm trying to establish... by asking questions, you can establish the facts. By you asking me back, what the point I'm getting at is...
What's the point you're getting at, Steve?
Okay, the relationship of the Vatican to Italy is the same as the relationship to the City of London to the actual borough of London and also the UK. They're exempt from the laws. They don't pay tax.
Well, they do pay tax, and they're not exempt from our laws.
Well, they don't pay tax. There's 12 banking families that make up the City of London Corporation, which has a head, the Lord Mayor of London, which is currently Roger Griffith.
Oh, he's doing a fantastic job. I've got no idea if that's true.
He's doing a great job because he's doing what he's paid to do, which is...
representing the banking business,
keep
yes.
this information out the news and also to reward the people that are keeping this agenda going.
What agenda?
Well, you got the bankers who are actually being rewarded for what they're doing. So you have to look at what they're doing.
They're being remunerated, Steve.
Okay, so you got the City of London Corporation.
Yeah.
They own the Central Bank of England.
They own Hampstead Heath. Did you know that? Or they run it?
They own the Square Mile. The Queen needs permission to enter the Square Mile. She needs the permission of the Lord Mayor of London before she can get into the Square Mile.
It's the only institution that can demand her presence. She has to run along. She has to get the bus.
This is where the legal franchise comes from. Do you know when the solicitor takes an oath to the bar? Do you know what the bar is?
Is it a place where you get a wrap of cocaine every time you order a bottle of champagne?
The bar is Temple Bar. You got the 4 Inns of Court, which exist within the City of London. This is what they franchise this legal system out to cover the financial system to the Commonwealth.
There's absolutely no way that the banking business is above the law. The law, as run by the politicians, doesn't want to go after the banking business for 2 reasons. One of which is that they've said that people on both sides of the Atlantic have said, the banks, they're not only too big to fail, but they're too big to prosecute because it would undermine confidence in the system. That is what they said. Hogwash. And the other reason is because, like I said before, they're the ones with all the money, and they can throw gigantic amounts of cold hard cash at any impediment that gets in their way. Any a problem or a bump in the road, they can just smooth it over with money, and suddenly that problem will go away immediately. That is why they have not been prosecuted, because that's where all the money is. It's not some arcane law about who can do what to when and in what circumstances and where. It's just that they've got tons of money, that's all. And it's like we've got Stockholm Syndrome, like we fall in love with the people that are holding us to ransom. Britain has threatened to provoke a fresh row with Brussels by launching legal proceedings against a €35 billion tax on financial transactions agreed by 11 European Union members earlier this year. The UK lodged the challenge at the European Court of Justice in protest of the spillover effects the private agreement might have on the UK economy. Oh, please. Although the FTT will only be adopted, this financial transaction tax will only be adopted by the 11 euro area signatories, which include Germany, France, Italy, Spain, it will hit investors worldwide. And that word hit should come in inverted commas. As it stands, any trade in euro-denominated financial instruments and any transaction with a bank from the 11-nation group or one of its overseas branches will be subject to the tax regardless of where the deal took place. How outrageous is that? And what devastating threat to the wealth of the rich and the shameless is being proposed here? Would you say it was a 20% haircut? Is it a 50% short back and sides? No. Under the current proposal, agreed in February, the financial transaction tax will be levied at 0.1% on equity and debt transactions and 0.01% on derivative transactions within the 11-member group. It's expected to raise as much as £35 billion a year. Or about the budget for champagne of the people that do the financial finagling. Speaking in Washington while attending the International Monetary Fund's spring meetings, George Osborne said, the UK has launched a legal challenge to the European Commission proposal to a financial transaction tax. It's just us, we're on our own. Us and the Americans, where, it's both here and America, this gangsterism, this financial finagling is concentrated. He said the British government is not against financial transaction taxes in principle. We have stamp duty on shares, but we are concerned about the extraterritorial aspects of the Commission's proposal. That concern is shared by some other countries, he said, mostly by the banker gangsters who are probably calling him on the phone 24 hours a day, who can't bear the thought of losing 0.01% of their remuneration. It's not going to affect them at all. UK financial institutions, as well as international investors from Japan and the US, have been in uproar over the plan. How much money do these people need? Analysis by the City of London has found that the tax would add almost £4 billion to the cost of issuing UK government debt this year. Yeah, but they would say that, wouldn't they? Statistics. Like the UK, US officials are also pressing Europe to curb the extraterritorial effect. Tom Quadman, Vice President for Capital Markets at US Chamber of Commerce, has said that there's a potential for regulatory overreach that could harm the global economy. Regulatory overreach? Wasn't it regulatory underreach that harmed the global economy? Isn't that the reason that we're in this position in the first place? They're concerned about regulatory overreach. As the City of London plays such a vital role to the UK economy, yeah, and wouldn't it be nice if we hadn't gone down that road? That we, like Germany, still, made things. As the city plays such a vital role to the UK economy, and because a large share of euro transactions go through the city, and many European banks operate in the capital, Britain could be disproportionately hurt by the new tax, in the same way that Britain has been disproportionately hurt by the banking industry collapse. Like I said, it's like we have Stockholm Syndrome. We've fallen in love with those that are holding us to ransom. And a Treasury source said, we are confident we will find a resolution to this transaction tax. And, and I'm confident you'll find a solution that's acceptable to the government's close personal friends in the finance racket. And to hell with the rest of us. Look at that switchboard. It's depressing. How many things have I talked about? I've talked about...
Yeah, you talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Maybe we should get one big thing and talk about that.
Well, like what?
Well, I had some suggestions earlier,
yeah,
but I didn't like
no,
them.
I didn't like that. One suggestion you said, should we do, should you get drug tested at work? And that would be, oh, yes, you should, or, oh, no, you shouldn't.
No, I think it opens up lots of debates on whether your employer actually has a right to know about things that you get up to in your spare time or not.
Does that sound like it would be amusing?
Do you want it to be amusing?
Hell yes! Yeah, I'd like it to be entertaining. Not just whining. I've had, I've talked about the economy, I've talked about bankers taking cocaine, I've talked about Pippi Schofield and boring people on television, I've talked about Storm Thorgerson and his rock albums, I've talked about David Beckham getting 20 million
What
quid.
do you want people to say about Storm Thorgerson?
Well, you could ignore Storm Thorgerson if you like. I've talked about all of the other places that people died in horrible circumstances on the very same day that the Boston bombing took place.
Yeah, that's amusing.
And no one reported any of it. I've talked about Romanian travellers, and I've talked about the sprayed gold people who are clogging up London's roads. I've talked about Richie Rich and his acolytes and the financial tax. All of these things. And I got one call from a woman in Manchester who was upset that on a talk station we talk, or something like that. I don't really quite know what it was she was trying to impart. And she wanted to get Will Self on.
But what she actually said on the phone was, when we spoke to her,
yes,
was a bit more concise than
right, well, we should have taped that. 084, what's the point? 0845 6060 973. I'll just keep saying it, confidently expecting nothing in response. This is Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3.
From top business talents.
Please hold the line. I'm trying to connect you.
Yes, connect me. 0845 6060 973. Any of these calls that I'm looking at now would do. Just put one through. Any you like, because if you don't, I'm going to start another topic and then they'll all go away again. Any of these calls that are on the board, put one through to me now. I can see a dozen people that want to speak to me right now, but none of them is being put through to me. Just put one through, please. Pretty please with sugar on top. No? Okay. On the subject of David Beckham, this says, David Beckham is a shining example of a down-to-earth, caring, passionate, dedicated, committed, hard-working, all-round good guy. That's what makes him a successful human being and a real role model, and he hasn't squeaked for years, at least not from his larynx. What does that mean? Says George. Yes, and all of these things all of those things are true, but I don't believe that that's the reason why he earns 100, 200, 250 million pound a year. Like I said before, in a country that finds intelligence suspicious and not something to be encouraged, I think the reason that he earns that kind of money is that he has cultivated an image of not being that bright, thereby being unthreatening, kind of like a baby. Ah, finally one comes through. It's a dream come true. Notting Hill. Hello, John.
Nick, yeah, you mentioned you got this call, was it, the other morning, very early at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
What was that, BPI? Or?
Yes.
But don't let them hang up. You press whatever number you need to get their details and make a record of it.
Well, I had the number that they were calling from. I didn't want to press a number because it was a recording, and they said press 1 for to speak to an operative, or press 2 to not speak to an operative. And I thought, well, isn't this one of these scams? If you press a button, then suddenly you're being charged £3.50 a second.
I suppose that's always a concern, but I don't think they can do that. And that would be like, that would be a major scandal, wouldn't it? I don't think they're doing that. You press 1 and you contact the person, you pretend you're interested, get all the details as possible, and you just keep a record of this, and then you take them to small claims. And that's what the guy did. He charged them £10 a time. I think he got £2,000, something like that.
Well, no, the court said they'll give him £1,000, something of that order, but then he's got to go and get it. Didn't they trace it to some cottage in Somerset or something unlikely like that? I mean, he's got to actually go and get it from them. They're not going to offer. They're not just going to send him a cheque in the post. He's got to go and get it.
Well, if he's got a court order, they've got to pay up, haven't they?
Well, you'd think so. But no, I think that's where bailiffs come in.
Well, and then you just hand it over to a claims company. So what? You give it over to a claims company, everyone did that, and then you have all these claims companies going after these people, even if it's a cottage down in Devon, and get bailiffs to go after them, wouldn't they? So, plus their charges. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't sound like
you get it. Well, maybe you get something.
Precisely,
if you sell it. You sell it to a claim debt collector.
No, I complained to the Information Commissioner's Bureau or whatever it is. There's a form that you can fill out online. You can just put the phone number that called you and say, are you appalled, outraged, or freaking out? Choose one of the above, and then you just press send.
Yeah.
And then promptly nothing happens, I would imagine.
No, they're really annoying. I think you just got to hit them where it hurts, basically.
Yeah.
But, oh, well,
With a hammer.
I didn't know if you'd heard about that, because you...
I did, yeah.
You sleep a lot,
I read tons, yeah. No, I did hear about that, but I expect that that they won't be getting their money. I hope that they do, but I'm expecting that they won't. Here's a call in Redbridge. Hello, Abbas.
Hi there. Good evening, Nick. Basically, what I'd like to say is that your show's, by the way, very, very entertaining always. You have me in fits driving. I drive for a living in the evenings, and I find it hilarious. I'm sort of laughing away as I listen to all the funny gags that you do.
Well, that's nice of you. Thanks very much. There's a but, yes.
What I'd like to say is, I think we in England we tend to moan a lot, but we don't to get together and constructively do anything about it. I mean, it's obvious what's happened. We have, as a people, we've been ripped off by the banks. There's a huge waiting list for, the £500,000, £1 million, top supercars, the expensive watches. They've got bumper business. I've got friends who do some of the graphics for these companies, and they were saying that, they've never had it better. So the elite have made a lot of money.
Tons.
The most expensive hotels, and holidays, for £5,000, £4,000 a night. These places are always sort of booked up. So it's obvious that there's been a huge shift of money, because money doesn't just disappear in an economy. Obviously, it doesn't just blow into thin air. Somebody has to make money if somebody loses money. That's how it works.
That's right.
And so the whole thing's been constructed in a way where, the middle classes have been sort of brought back to, to perhaps 20, 30 years ago, what they were worth, as far back as that. But my point really is that I think as a community, as a people, we need to take more responsibility, really, to get together. And it's obvious that the electoral system hasn't worked. It doesn't work because we're in this situation because of that very reason. So I think we need to get together collectively somehow and sort of throw these people out and get someone in that will hopefully, represent the people to benefit the people rather than benefit themselves. It's just...
When you say them, are you talking about politicians or the bank gangsters?
Well, politicians as well, because it just seems like a coincidence that a lot of the companies that are dealing with government, these guys are either off the board or end up being on their boards, in directorships or whatever, earning huge amounts of money for doing like 4 hours a week or something. So,
well, never mind about 4 hours a week, 4 hours a year.
Well, exactly, and so, and we're not supposed to, being British, stiff upper lip and everything, and, it's not cricket to sort of call these people fraudsters, but in reality, that's what they are.
Of course they are.
They're defrauding us.
That's what mis-selling means. If you do it as a bank, it's mis-selling. If you do it, Abbas, it's fraud.
Absolutely. And I think what people need to do, we need to get together, whether it's behind someone like yourself or whatever, to rally up the people and get the people to sort of get together and do something significant so we can actually make some changes. But at this rate, we're going to be complaining for the next 20, 30 years, and all we'll do is just keep moaning.
But honestly, what can we do? I mean, people did try it for a little while there. The Occupy movement, they made a bit of a splash, and the press were all over them like white on rice, saying what a disgusting bunch of smelly oiks these people are, and hose them off the street, that sort of thing. And so you get the might of the press who are against you, no matter what you do. Because the press are owned by and written for the benefit of billionaires, so they're not going to be on your side because they are twinned with the bank gangsters. And the banks have insinuated themselves into our lives to such an extent that it's impossible to think of doing without them. This Bitcoin thing that came up. There's other sort of alternative currencies as well, but it's kind of interesting because it does give the possibility of people running their lives without going through the banking system and without the possibility of the government coming in and taking your money away, just on a whim to pay for the mistakes of their close personal friends in the finance racket.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I just don't understand this concept where people who messed up so badly end up with millions of pounds of bonuses and God knows what else, and it's the taxpayer whose fault it clearly is not, is the one who has to then go and pay off for all their troubles. And I just don't understand how that concept is even fair or just. And I think, you know, we seem to be living in a society whereby now these things are now becoming almost normal and acceptable. And I think there is a time for change. I think we need to have to collectively take a response. And I agree with you that the media is very much, for the benefit of the elite. But we need to somehow organise ourselves, get together, and have a voice again. But I totally agree that the system as it is now, we're going to be going back up chimneys again. We'll have the top hats coming back in, and everyone else would have to be sort of up the chimney stack, cleaning the chimneys out.
Well, see, now what the press would do in order to take your eye off what is actually happening is, and this is happening at this moment, and on a continuous basis, they're saying the actual problem in society is the people not above you. Don't look there. It's the people below you that are the problem. It's the poor, the feckless, the people who sit on their sofa watching repeats of Top Gear all day long and sucking in, those gigantic benefit checks, which are, and you'll always be able to come up with an example of someone who's perpetuating some sort of outrage against the system, and has got 23 kids and a 10,000 square foot mansion in Hampstead on the taxpayer. You'll always be able to come up with examples like that, but you can't extrapolate from those extremes to the general population. Most people on benefits are not having a whale of a time and going out and going on 5-star holidays and buying a boat.
I totally agree, because I mean, even the families with like 15 kids, or 18 kids or whatever it was, I think 110, 120 families in the whole country.
Yes.
I mean, that's hardly going to solve our debt problem, is it?
Well, no, quite. But it's a handy example to throw at people to say, the problem is not the people above you, which it is. The problem is actually the people below you. Those are this has happened. It's so easy, and people are like Pavlov's dogs. They'll start like pointing and shouting almost instantly. People like that are pointed out. They will be described as rat people. And what does that remind you of from history? The only thing that you ever learn from history is that no one ever learns anything from history.
I totally agree there, and I think that, they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I think we're really in that situation now. I mean, we've had all these different laws that are coming in under stealth, apparently for our own good, and I really just think that these things are being constructed because in the future, if there is that possibility of civil unrest, they'll be able to just clamp you down and just shut you up. You won't have a voice. An example would be when the old ladies were on their way.
And there it went. No, that's very suspicious. I didn't cut him off. His signal failed. Just at the point that he was about to highlight iniquities inherent in the system. Very suspicious. 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. And Twitch tweet @LBC973. Call 0845 6060 973 while you still can.
73. Text 84850. Tweet @LBC973. This is London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbot.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Here's a call in Finchley. Hello, Amanda.
There you are. Hello.
Here I am.
Hello there.
Hello
can you
there.
hear me nicely?
Yes, I can.
I'm on a home phone, not a mobile.
That's why it's so clear and pristine.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
It's like talking to a real human being.
Well, it's a German one. I don't know if that makes a difference. But it was reduced from about £80 to 20 for 2 handsets.
Now, is it one of these ones that gives you like a nuclear charge in your head when you hold it next to your ear?
No. This one actually has hold music, apparently.
Hold music?
So if I was holding you on the phone saying just hold a minute,
yeah,
it will play a tinkly little bit of music.
Oh, it's not Greensleeves, is it?
I've got no idea. I haven't checked it out yet. But I just want to talk to you about, first of all, about two things.
Yeah, I bet it's the girl from Ipanema.
It might. Do you know, I'd love to hold you. If I knew how to hold you, I would.
Yeah.
You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Quite tightly. So, I'm a comedian tonight. So it's regarding Twitter.
Yes.
You're not on there very much still.
Well, I'm on there
You're
permanently.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you've got quite a few posts, but I keep saying to you that Twitter is the thing. It's the more up-to-date thing.
It's more groovy and happening.
More groovy and happening. So I want to talk to you. I don't know if you remember what I said to you about 6 to 8 months ago, but do you remember we were talking about somebody on Twitter? Oh, so many people have got arrested from Twitter. You remember me talking to you about that?
No.
And like, you know, someone tweets something that upsets somebody and then the police start, you know, arresting these people. Do you remember we were talking about that?
No.
No? Well, you probably read it in the papers, yeah? That somebody says something out of line and a whole load of tweeters.
Well, I remember that, yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't remember that we had that discussion.
Yeah,
But
and then we had another discussion about somebody who had gone into his local council.
Yeah, I
and
don't remember
filmed
that
his
either.
house, stuck that on Twitter and then got arrested. Anyway, to cut a long story short, someone
Too
else
late.
someone else got arrested yesterday on Twitter.
Well, now we can't talk about it then.
No,
if they
but
just
we're not
got...
going to.
Right,
but
okay.
what I'm saying is, I think what's happening at the moment, instead of the news organisations actually journalistically finding news, going out as, you know, like they used to do, and you would open a newspaper and you would see a story that you would never know about. I think what the news organisations, Reuters and all that are doing now, they're just sitting on Twitter and they're seeing what news comes up and actually going with those stories.
What's trending?
Well, for example, what can I say without sort of... Okay, well, for example, there's this whole thing about... Well, I'll tell... I don't know if it was... Okay, Liverpool. Okay, Liverpool was trending yesterday. Did you know that?
Well, it's for the first time in its history. Trending.
Liverpool was trending yesterday.
Actually, for the second time in its history. I got that wrong.
Rock and roll!
Yeah, there was that small incident in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah. So Liverpool was trending yesterday because someone died connected to something, which I'm not going to say, okay,
Right.
because you said not to say something. Okay, anyway, Liverpool was trending, and someone happened to make a remark about two incidents in Liverpool, okay, in the past, okay? This is long ago, long time ago. And a whole load of, can we call them Scousers? Is it Scousers? Is that the nickname of Liverpudlians?
Yeah.
A whole load of Scousers ganged up on Twitter. Must have been about at least 200 or 300 or more.
Yes.
And got so irate about this particular incident, tweet or whatever, that the person ended up having his account closed, and then it ended up in the Liverpool News Post and the Mirror and...
Well, what's worse than that? What's even worse than that? Because that actually, it's hard to tell what you're talking about because you've just been, you've been so necessarily vague, and we appreciate that, Amanda.
Yeah.
But what's worse than that is that newspaper articles will report some story, and then they'll say, and Sharon from Essex tweeted this about this story. She has absolutely nothing to do with the story. They just looked it up on Twitter and found some random person, or probably they just made it up.
Yes.
In the same way that they do when they say a source said. That often means they just made it up.
You know who's really makes me mad about who really always... The Mail, the Daily Mail. They are just so... Always, every day, there's someone on Twitter that said something, and look at this person that commented on it. And you could be just, like, someone who just might have returned a tweet unknowingly, and all of a sudden the police are on your door about, but I won't say the instance, but there were very well-known news stories, and somebody happened to comment about them in a more derogatory manner, and ended up in the middle of the Mirror and all the newspapers.
Well, see, now, this is one of the reasons that I was talking to my friend just the other day about how I think it's quite surprising that we, as a species, all get along so relatively well, and that when we don't, it's actually so unusual that it makes the news, is because all you have to do to find out what people are actually like, not their clean and polished public face, but what people are like inside, is to read the comments and the tweets that people put on the World Wide Web, because that is that is unfiltered.
Yes.
It just lets their inside spew out. All over the internet it goes, and that is an indication of what people are like, rather than the polite smiling and the the averting of eyes on the tube and all that, and the way that we carry on our public lives. That's not who we are, because you can see who we are by the way that people write on the internet when they're not being stared at. And, by the way, how they act in cars, because that's not face-to-face interaction either. You are protected in much the same way as you are on the internet.
And they always pick their noses, don't they?
But that's not what I'm talking about, Amanda. I'm talking about the furious overreaction to any imagined slight. Or somebody will not pull away from the lights very, very quickly, and so you are inconvenienced, but momentarily. You will get to your destination a few seconds later than you would ordinarily have done. And such an inconsequential action will draw a response that is borderline fury. People leaning on the horn, screaming through the window.
Nick, can I just have one quick thing?
Yeah.
You were talking about what might be bringing in drug testings at work.
Well, I didn't say that, but that was... That was a question that Amanda had. Yeah.
Oh, well, I just want to say that would that cover just a certain type of drug, or would it be if, say, like I'm on prescription medication?
Yeah. Well, that would be all right.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that would be because, for example, if you're on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety pill or something like that, whether the work could know that. And then obviously, it would affect your job.
Yes.
That's really dangerous.
Right, well, quite possibly.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, in some jobs, it would be good to know that. Like if you were a comedian, for instance. Actually, it would help if you were of a depressing nature. Or a depressant nature.
Nick, just quickly.
Because comedians are like that. Comedians are very, very depressed people, by and large.
Yes. On Twitter, I know I love Twitter, but most of the comedians, I don't know if you follow them, but a lot of comedians on Twitter, they're so miserable.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Comedians are very, very miserable people, by and large. Yeah. Which is why I'm so glad I'm not funny.
You are funny. You are the best.
I'm the best.
You're better than all the rest.
I'm better than all the rest, yeah. I'm dreamy. I won't lie to you, Amanda.
You're very dreamy.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Cheers, my dear. 0845 6060 973. Here's an example of what the press are like. I can't believe this actually made it into a newspaper. To outsiders, Britons can sometimes appear to be stuffy and staid. The truth, however, is that beneath that calm, conservative image courses a stream of mischievousness. At least if a new study is to be believed. The research found up to 1 in 5 women indulge in a daily bout of naughtiness to help tickle up their day. I bet you were wondering what I was going to say. Tickle up their day. Among the regular bad behaviour listed is pulling a sickie and secretly lusting after a partner's father. Other naughty acts include women keeping a picture of a heartthrob rather than their boyfriend or husband as their mobile or PC screensaver. This was in a national newspaper. Some 15% of the 2,000 women surveyed, it's always 2,000, have you noticed? There must be there must be some cut-off point below which it's not there's a legal requirement for it being a survey, because it's always 2,000. Some 15% of the 2,000 women surveyed also admit they touched up pictures of them. The look on Amanda's face. You were on the edge of your seat there for a moment, weren't you?
I've read this stories, but even it still made me nervous.
15% of the 2,000 women surveyed also admit they touch up pictures of themselves before posting them online to hide any imperfections. 1 in 6 will lie about how much they spent on a new outfit, handbag or other purchase, even pretending it was a gift. These are examples of mischievousness, naughty behaviour that tickles up women's days, according to this important article in the newspaper. A survey by a sweet company comes as adverts to launch some new product include one in which a girl reveals she fancies her boyfriend's father. Oh, he's so dreamy. Something that 10% of women now admit to. Almost 1 in 4, 23% admit they flirt to get a freebie or a discount from suggestive banter with a coffee shop barista. Barista. I know I've called that up before, but you just pour water through beans, barista. And they also flutter eyelashes at a car salesman. The research found that women in the northwest are most likely to enjoy a daily naughtiness, but those in the southwest were least likely. I've never heard such a load of old codswallop in all my life. And the research also found that a newspaper will just cut and paste any old rubbish you email over just to fill the space between the ads. Studies have found that indulging in the odd mischievous treat reduces stress, leaves us feeling healthier, happier and younger, and in want of a chocolate bar, I bet. A poll of 1,045 people found that 59% who did naughty things did it to relieve stress, and 57% said it made them happy. 38% said they needed to be naughty to cope with the economic gloom and doom. What garbage. I bet Amanda keeps a photo of me as her screensaver to get through this economic doom and gloom. That's correct, isn't it, Amanda?
I've got a photo of you on my dartboard.
Well, it's something, I suppose. 0845 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3.
Hello, boys.
The little bit of naughtiness that helps us as a country get through the day is, of course, acting as an offshore tax haven to the world's rich and shameless. And it's not just me saying this. Austria has said this. Austria has accused Britain of being a haven for money laundering and tax evasion as the Alpine nation comes under European Union and German pressure to axe its banking secrecy laws. They're flailing, lashing out wildly. Europe's finance ministers pushing Austria hard to follow Luxembourg's example in agreeing to reveal information on European banking depositors to EU tax authorities, which is the only interesting thing about Luxembourg. I know, I lived there for 6 months. Maria, the Australian Finance Minister Maria, has vowed to fight like a lion against the demands and has refused to change her country's laws until Britain ends the tax haven and banking secrecy laws in offshore financial centres such as the Channel Islands. She said Great Britain has many money laundering centres and tax havens in its immediate legal remit. The Channel Islands, Gibraltar, Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands, these are all hotspots for tax evasion and money laundering. We're the ones that make the world go round for drug dealers and the terrorists and organised crime. That's us what does it. Jolly old England. Hurrah! The Austrian finance minister described Britain as the island of the blessed for tax evasion and money laundering, comparing British offshore banking to the Cypriot financial sector that is to be forcibly reconstructed, or restructured rather, as part of the Eurozone bailout. Just as we urge the abolition of sealed foundations in the Cyprus rescue to drain the money laundering swamp, we must demand the same of the UK, she said. Yeah, it's just, in Cyprus, it's all Russian gangster money. So with us, it's everything but, presumably. We want a trust registry for the Channel Islands, said Austrian Finance Minister, but also for countries where British law applies, such as the Cayman Islands, the Virgin Islands, or Gibraltar, etc., and so on. These are all areas that are havens for tax evaders. And it's that chap that called earlier on, that was saying, essentially that we can't afford anything anymore, and that's what you get when you make yourself a centre for the rich to avoid tax. Come here and we will make it such that you don't have to pay the amount of tax that the French government is asking, or the German government, or whatever it might be. And the property goes through the roof, and all of the things that require a vast amount of money are doing very, very well. Thank you very much. There doesn't seem to be a recession on Bond Street. Harrods just had its most boffo year yet. They made something like £1 billion in 1 year, Harrods. They're not doing badly. There's no recession in SW7. Eurozone finance ministers discussed Cyprus. Is Cyprus there still? Their problems haven't gone away. It's just that we haven't heard about them lately. The banks have tied the country to a chair and they're ransacking its house. They can't call the police because the ransackers are the police. Poor Cyprus. And our offshore industry was taken to task by The Guardian a little while ago. James Ball wrote, with ministers from George Osborne to Vince Cable willing to speak out strongly against offshoring and tax avoidance, it's easy to imagine the villains of the piece to be irresponsible foreign nations, happy to shelter the mega-rich in offshore secrecy, unconcerned about the tax avoided in other larger countries. If only the British government can prevail on these overseas battles, things will get better, it seems. But such a stance ignores that one nation in particular has ties to offshore havens everywhere. It's a veritable nexus of offshore influence related to havens in the Caribbean and much closer to home. And that nation is, of course, us. The clue is quite often in the name, he said. The British Virgin Islands are perhaps rivalled only by Switzerland as a global capital for the offshore industry, with more than a million offshore companies registered on the Caribbean island. Do you know how many people live there? 31,000. 1 million companies are registered there in the British Virgin Islands. Plaques for registration agents, solicitors and more line almost every wall of the island's tiny capital. Everything done above board, I'm sure. The islands are a British overseas territory, legally under the jurisdiction of the UK and with a British governor, but in practice self-governed. Other havens with this UK imprimatur include the Cayman Islands, Gibraltar and the Turks and Caicos Islands. And closer to home, the UK wields even more control over the Crown dependencies, Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man, whose role in legal tax avoidance techniques has been documented time and again for decades. Even within the UK itself, little is done against tricks of the offshore trade that have been known for decades. More than 175,000 UK companies have had directors based in offshore havens. The Guardian identified 28 sham directors with tens of thousands of companies between them. 28 directors, tens of thousands of companies between them. In short, a huge string of the world's foremost offshore havens have, at minimum, a strong and long-lasting symbolic relationship with the UK, and in practice are susceptible to significant influence and pressure from the UK government. Gosh, if only they had it in mind to do something about it. Even at home, offshore practices known and deplored by governments for more than a decade are still going strong. The temptation for campaigners and government alike is to look overseas for villains in the offshore trade. The reality is more complex, and the trouble closer to home. The upside of this is that it means that if Britain really wants to tackle global offshore secrecy, there's a lot it can do. But so far, everywhere, on its home turf, in its dependencies, in its overseas territories, the UK brand is on both sides of the fight. For Britain, the battle against offshore, if it wants to fight, begins at home. Just doesn't seem they want to fight that bad. I wonder why. Reigate, hello, Alan.
Yeah, good morning, Nick. It's going to get a bit worse because this hasn't been put out in the public domain yet, but somewhere between 11.2 billion and 16 billion is the shortfall in the EU budget, of which we're going to be collared for about 2 billion for a country which is supposed to have no money.
Well, it's only cash.
It's only cash. It's only zeros on a computer. You just press the buttons and do QE and send it out.
Bingo.
Yeah, what really gets up my nose, and which has never been said by anybody, all these guys in the banking world, bearing in mind I'm a retired Institute of Bankers member, that are getting paid these huge bonuses, it's coming from the money they've fiddled on the LIBOR, and they've fiddled on the gold fix that has just gone on, and they're fiddling on the PPI that they've missold. It's just, as Abbot said, somewhere along the line, somebody has got to stand up and start finding a way of getting these concert parties and these conspiracies sorted out.
Abbot? Did you say,
politically.
as Abbot said?
I know, Abbot, the guy who was on earlier.
Oh.
No, Abbot.
I thought, what song was that? That's a rubbish Abbot song.
Money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the link, money. Yeah, it's in the rich man's world. But no, Abbot's actually hit it bang on the nail. And it's really wrong what they're doing.
Well, it seems comical to me. It seems comical to me that the only punishment that is being mooted is that they will be banned from working as directors again. As though that is punishment for somebody who's earned, 10 million, 12 million, 20 million, 150 million pounds over the last 10 or 20 years by, whatever finagling they've managed to get away with. That's their punishment. They get to put their feet up for the rest of their lives.
But that money's come out of money they've fiddled off everybody else. That's the whole problem. And the other thing you'll not notice in the press, have you noticed that 500 tons of paper gold was sold deliberately to push the gold price down so that the central banks and the other banks could buy it up cheaply, and nothing has appeared in the mainstream financial press about that?
Well, what's odd about that is that it was almost like an orchestrated sale, because it all happened so quickly and for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Trust me, 100% it was. That's exactly what happened. But the whistleblowers in this country, if anybody blows the whistle, they're the ones that will end up in jail. Whereas in Iceland, the president there, he told America to stuff their FBI guys, send them back to America. He put 200 of the bank people in jail, and he said, we don't put activists in jail or whistleblowers, we put the people who perpetrate the crimes in jail. And that's the president of Iceland, and they've recovered totally because they've got a woman in charge now with this guy, and they have really turned it round. The people there said they were not going to stand for it anymore. But in this country, as Abbot said, people will just moan and complain, and nobody will do anything about it. And that's the sad thing about the apathy, other than move your money to a nationwide building society or one of the other building societies, but nobody will do that either.
They haven't put Bajork in charge, have they?
Good one. She likes nice songs as well.
She certainly does, yeah. Well, I think we should follow Iceland. Whatever Iceland do, we should do it too.
If we put it in practice, I'll tell you what, mate, it would change the whole bloody system completely. But I cannot see it happening.
It won't,
and I'm too old to even be able to do anything about it myself now.
Well, you lead and we'll follow, Alan, even if it's at a slow pace.
All right, I'll try that then. I keep pushing away to get the information out there, but the sad thing is, it's still not going to make any
No one cares is the sad thing. No one's remotely interested, really. I mean, it all comes down to the first three letters of the word news. If it's not new, then no one's interested anymore. You'll hear it once, and then you don't want to hear it again. It's like, next.
Yeah. Well, anyway, maybe the SFO will do something about the LIBOR thing.
Yeah, hold your breath, Alan.
No, I don't want to go blue.
0845 6060 973. This is Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3. The time 12:30. London's biggest conversation with Nick Abbott.
I think this is nonsense.
What? 0845 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3. Here's a call in Orpington. Hey, Ray.
Hi, Nick. As Abbott said, I think it's time these bankers met their Waterloo, but I fear the winner takes it all. Now, this daring survey you highlighted, I mean, is it a naughty act if I lust after a cream bun I mean, is my guilt compounded if it's your cream bun and not my own? I mean, does that make it covetousness as well as greed?
Don't covet my buns.
That's right. I mean, if I catch a news item on exotic eating habits and think, now that's a good-looking camel, I mean, does that warrant a Hail Mary? I mean, is it mischievous to listen to an inappropriate record by the likes of Eminem or Judy Garland? I mean, how do you define naughtiness? Is it something that will bring a frown to Great Aunt Agatha or Anne Widdecombe? I mean,
it's just something that gave publicity to a company that's bringing out a new method of selling chocolate.
It's so preposterous, isn't it? I mean, it is an absolute... Well, I suppose they've got us talking about it, but it does seem to be a waste of newsprint.
Well, a complete waste of newsprint. I just can't believe that a decent newspaper would have the nerve to print it. I mean, it just seems incredible to me.
I mean, what a country would these peccadillos not apply to? I mean, perhaps Iran. I mean, I don't know, or North Korea. It's just preposterous. It's a complete nonsense.
Hey, by the way, what happened to North Korea? Everybody was on the edge of their seat, thinking it was going to be World War III, and attending to every little thing that Kim Jong-un said, and then suddenly a bigger news story came along.
Well, Monday came, didn't it? And of course, it was on Monday, the tragic events in Boston. I suppose the first thing that crossed your mind is thinking, would it be a North Korean thing? But I think he's more bark and not much bite, but yeah, I mean, it just drove it off the front page. But because I was wondering how he was going to keep it up. You know, what happens when nothing happens?
Well, yeah, but it didn't just drive it off the front page; it drove it off every page. Like the biggest. This is the interesting thing to me about the news is that it will follow a narrative, and the implication being that this is the most important news story in the world at the moment. And then something will happen to knock it off the front page, and then you never hear anything about it again, as though it's stopped being important. And if it can stop being important that quickly, then surely it wasn't important in the first place.
I mean, the thing that got me last year was, I mean, obviously, rightly, we heard a great deal about the approaching storm, you know, on New York. And, you know, it was devastating New York. And then the moment it was moving off towards Canada, that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. All the reporters are in New York.
Only a bunch of Canadians will be affected up there, eh?
Well, I don't know. I don't suppose it's particularly nice at Niagara Falls or whatever. But yeah, it is peculiar how they choose news. And also, I mean, I don't watch television. I just have DVDs. But around friends' houses, you know, if you're watching the news on ITV and BBC and you switch at certain points in the programme, they seem most nights to have the same items in the same order of importance, as though there's some sort of God-given decision, well, this is more important than that, and this is the third item, and you think, have they all come independently to this judgment?
And what I find bizarre is that the British news media will, as you say, they will all decide on whatever is important, but other news media from other countries, they will tend to, as far as what I've seen, have a more global vision rather than our kind of parochial recent deaths in your area, and one politician said that another was smelly.
Well, perhaps, I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't know if that's true of America. I mean, one hears, I mean, sort of the American media is inward-looking, but, I mean...
Yeah, very much so, and we criticise them for it, but I think we're worse.
I suppose it's the nation's sense of its own importance. I suppose if you're a very tiny nation, I suppose if you're somebody like, I'm not even going to go to the Belgians, but I mean how small. I mean,
go ahead, why not?
Holland or whatever, you know, or Portugal. I mean, I suppose if you're in Portugal, you're going to be dominated by Spanish news. I suppose if you're in Mexico, you're going to be dominated by US news, apart from the language difference. I mean...
I think they got plenty of deaths in Mexico to fill up the local news bulletins.
Well, so it stops being news, doesn't it? I suppose that's the other thing. I mean,
yes.
It's like you hear about the stabbings. I mean, you hear about this tragic event, you know, which is in Boston. But, I mean, 3 people were killed and then a policeman's been killed. And then you hear 50 bodies have been found in the Texas thing. But Texas has taken second level. And what crossed my mind, I mean... If I went amok with a gun in London, would the whole city close down? They've closed down Boston looking for one man. How much damage can one man do? I mean, we've had other nutcases with a gun, but you don't close down a whole city. And is it because it was such international news they have to catch him for their own credibility.
Well, at the beginning of the programme, towards the beginning, I just listed other things that had happened in other places on the same day. And it was 120 people died in Syria, and 55 people died in one thing in Iraq, and 30 people died in Somalia, and 4 bombs went off in Bahrain, and 20 people were killed in the Central African Republic, and 8 members of the same family were killed in Afghanistan, among 14 others. And in Pakistan, it was, just as situation normal. None of which got a mention in the press.
Oh, I agree. I mean, obviously, the fact that you had footage of the explosions, and of course, I don't want to sort of play it down.
Yeah, and am I the only person that didn't watch any of it? And they said, 2 people have just died in this bomb explosion, and here is the footage of it. And you know what? I don't want to see a bomb going off knowing that people are getting their legs blown off. Why would anybody want to watch that?
The extreme example, of course, was the Twin Towers, wasn't it? I mean, the footage...
Well, the difference there was that, but you can almost remove the reality from the Twin Towers, because it did look like something that Hollywood had made. It was so huge, it was unreal. Whereas something as relatively small as a bomb going off in the street, well, you can put yourself in that position, but it's kind of hard to put yourself in the position of what you saw on the Twin Towers. It almost became unreal.
Well, the other example of it was, do you remember when the space shuttle blew up, the original footage would show you it blowing up, and then it kept showing you the faces of the relatives looking puzzled and shocked, and unsure what had happened. And then after a while, people decided, well, this was intruding unnecessarily on people.
I didn't want to watch that either, but I felt that I was alone. Everybody else seemed to be just glued to it, sucking up the horror and the misery. I've avoided watching anything to do with the Boston thing, because why would you want to have your life infected by that?
But did you see the explosion at the Texas thing, the big one? I mean, that was almost beyond Hollywood. I mean, I was watching last week a kind of one of these Gladiator of Pompeii, because I'm interested in the sort of volcanoes and things like that, and the special effects. It was a non-story, but the effects were good. But looking at that thing, you see a sort of explosion in the distance, and then everything seems to blow up, and you think, is this real? It was almost like watching Mount St. Helens. It was so big that, as you say, with the Twin Towers, it's something so big, you're dwarfed, It's cataclysmic.
You don't sort of acknowledge the deaths while you're watching it, but on a small scale, you do, because it seems more real.
Well, the personal bit is, I suppose you're wondering what on earth has happened to the cameraman, because the thing just leaps at the camera, and you're thinking, oh, I hope they're all right, whoever's filming it, because you can't care about everybody. I mean, you'd go mad, wouldn't you? So you're thinking about the viewpoint. Is your viewpoint, is the cameraman's viewpoint? How is he?
But I mean, this last week or so, I just haven't really wanted to suck up any news at all, because first of all, it was Margaret Thatcher for what seemed like an age, an era. It seemed like, and then we got the Boston thing, and I didn't really want to watch any of that either. So I've been kind of like I've removed myself from the news cycle, because that's all that's been on the TV news. Those 2 stories. And one of which is dreadful, and I'd rather my life wasn't infected by it, and the other was just, to my opinion, way over the top.
I don't know. I mean, I think with Mrs. Thatcher, and ideally what should happen is she should have been placed in a cave, and surrounded by her sort of first cabinet, and then when Britain is once again threatened, and the Ravens leave the tower from an outside enemy or from left-wing trumpery within, in roaring she will rise and lead us all back into a true blue heaven.
Right, like I said, way over the top. Thanks a lot, Ray.
Yeah.
0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC973. This is Nick Abbott, LBC 97.3.
From
Light!
It seems that UK property, it seems that people are talking it up. However, others are sounding warning bells. The talking up part first. Britain's property market is a win-win scenario in 2013, said the influential Ernst & Young Item Club in its spring forecast. It says that incomes would edge higher, largely thanks to the rise in personal tax allowance for most Britons, and predicted that mortgage affordability would improve, with the impact multiplied by the Chancellor's new Help to Buy scheme. In other words, the future's so bright we've got to wear shades, everyone's going to be rolling in cash, and we're all going to run out and buy houses. The Item Club, an independent group of economists, said that with £3.5 billion of government funds, paying 20% of the purchase price, the scheme could underpin 100,000 mortgages worth 200 grand each. What could possibly go wrong? With Help to Buy, those with a 5% deposit can get an extra 20% of deposit as a loan from the government when buying a new build home for up to £600,000. A second phase is going to offer mortgage guarantee from next January, details yet to be finalised. Can you remember any time in history that a government-backed massive loans for houses scheme that people couldn't afford to buy and raised the prices to the level of unaffordability that ended in catastrophe? Can you remember any time in history that any of that happened? Is that ringing any bells? As in, it's happening now, at this moment? That is the reason that we're in this mess? It's not that nobody learns anything from history other than no one learns anything from history. No one learns any lessons from history even before the events are old enough to be history. Chief Economic Advisor Pete said, with export markets continuing to disappoint, the Chancellor has focused his firepower on the home front, and the timing couldn't have been better. Real incomes are already starting to recover, he said. Mortgages are becoming more readily available, and homes are more affordable as the house price to earnings ratio continues to fall. I've never heard such a load of old rubbish in all my life. The price to wages ratio for UK property is 4.51. This is the affordability. Homes are more affordable, so he says. That's 4.5 times what people earn. But what area is that? Average wages are, £25,000 countrywide before tax, or just about £20,000 after tax. So the house you could buy with 4.5 times salary is worth 90 grand. And exactly where are the houses that cost £90,000? Not where people earn 25 grand a year, that's for sure. I mean, these figures are just misleading at best and wrong at worst. And this is what they're saying that is behind the new dash for property, the fact that we're about to become much, much richer. You know what the figures are? The Item Club said that the increase in personal income tax allowance, which has just risen from 8,000 odd to 9,000 odd, and will increase to 10 grand next April, would boost disposable incomes by 0.4% over the next 2 years. This is the reason that people are going to feel much, much richer and better off. Because their income will be increased by 0.4% over the next 2 years. The report said, combined with strong employment levels which have allowed income growth to overtake inflation, the Item Club expects someone earning the average national salary of £23,000 to have an extra £280 in their pocket by the end of the year. And what they're saying is, with that, you will be propelled to run out and buy yourself a property because you've got £280 a year extra in your pocket. Am I missing something here? Because none of this seems to make sense. Mostly that the government is encouraging people to go out and buy properties that they can't afford with money that they haven't got. That is, and I'm not. Am I delirious, or is that the reason that we're in this problem? Subprime loans. So they're going to prop up people who haven't got a big enough deposit by giving them money from the government so they can go out and buy a house that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford at historically low interest rates. Those interest rates can only go one way, up. Are you getting any of this? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. But then I'm not an expert economist. These expert economists, by the way, they said that that mortgage lending is going up. That can't be the same mortgage lending that the Bank of England said was going down. Economists, honestly, The Bank of England said today, yesterday as it is now, that lending to British businesses is still falling. The annual rate of growth in the stock of loans to firms was negative in the 3 months to February, according to the bank. And despite the government's funding for lending scheme, designed to increase the availability of loans, mortgage approvals for house purchase also fell over the 3-month period. Well, so which figures are these people working from? Because they have to be the same ones. How can one set of statistics tell one group that mortgage lending is going up while telling another group that it's going down? Either one of them is lying or one of them doesn't know what they're talking about. The figures come amid swelling concern about the economy. The International Monetary Fund, the head of that, Christine Lagarde, described the UK's outlook as not particularly good. Oh, Christine, don't sugarcoat it for us. Tell us what you think. The fund has downgraded its forecast for the UK to 0.7% growth forecasts, and told George Osborne to consider slowing spending cuts. And the incoming Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, bracketed the UK in the group of crisis economies. Next Thursday, the Office for National Statistics is going to release its first estimate for GDP growth in the first quarter of 2013. Isn't that exciting? Not really, because it's not going to be good news. And yet, in a basis, despite all of the above, and the fact that house prices are overpriced, this article was out in the Telegraph just the other day. The government is trying to prop up house prices and get people to re-enter the house buying arena. However, the personal finance editor of the Telegraph says that would-be buyers should realise that house prices are vastly overpriced. Not just a little bit, vastly overpriced. But the government is determined to push them further, he said. The government's attempts to help first-time buyers defy logic. It's not just me. I can't believe that I actually got something right. He says future evidence of this has emerged when largely unnoticed data published alongside Halifax's monthly house price report showed a sharp rise in the prices paid by first-time buyers. The policies devised between the Bank of England and the Treasury may be the cause. The Funding for Lending scheme, launched last year, stamped up £80 billion for banks and building societies to borrow at rates as low as 0.25% on the hope that they would lend the money out. This appears to be happening, and certainly rates have tumbled on personal loans and mortgages over the winter. By the way, just on that, the government gave the banks £80 billion so that they would lend it to us. It's our money. Here's the insanity of what's happening. The government is taking money from us and they're giving it to the banks almost for free. And the banks, if anything, are then lending it to us. They're lending our money that we gave them back to us at a greater markup. Have I lost my mind, or does none of this make any sense? Let me just go through that again to see if I've got this straight. Through the government, you and me, are lending money to the banks so that they can lend it back to us at a markup. Okay, I just want to throw in the towel because I don't think anything makes any sense to me anymore. There's been a coup. We've been taken over. This article written by Andrew Oxlade, the personal finance editor at the Telegraph, so it's presumably somebody who knows what he's talking about. He said, while the biggest beneficiaries have been those with large deposits to put down, there's been more of a take-up of credit by first-time buyers. Industry figures show that there were more first-time buyers in 2012 than there has been since the peak of the property boom in 2007. This resurgence helps explain why the prices paid by these buyers are suddenly rising so fast. And the trend may only be nascent, he says. The flagship Help to Buy policy began like a week or so ago, and Chancellor George Osborne thought that up. And now buyers of new build properties can apply to the government via house builders to top up their 5% deposits to 25% via a 5-year interest-free loan. Also seems to be, like, speaking as someone who doesn't know economics, but then that doesn't really seem to be an impediment, because economists don't appear to know anything about it either. So what that seems to be saying is that if you can't afford to buy a house because you don't have the money, then the government, i.e. you and I, are going to give people that can't afford the house the money to buy a house that they can't afford, which is the precise thing that happened in America, which is called subprime loans, that got the world into a depression, or a triple-dip, quadruple-dip recession, whichever you want to call it. And this is the government's big scheme. It's just mad. Is it me, or is it nuts?
Well, it doesn't sound an ideal solution, does it?
Buyers of new build properties can apply to the government via house builders to top up their 5% deposits to 25% via a 5-year interest-free loan. A second wave of the scheme, which in its current outline would be open to all mortgage borrowers, will be launched next April. And you know who will take advantage of it more than anybody else? People that have got tons of money. They were already, the phones in offices in Mayfair and Kensington and Chelsea are already ringing off the hook with people who have just got hundreds of thousands of pounds sloshing around their bank account in search of a wizard wheeze. And the only thing that's going to do is to push up prices that are vastly overpriced as it is. Madness. Absolute frothing insanity. The policy, it seems, is to force up house prices, says Andrew Oxlade, the personal finance editor of The Telegraph. The policy, it seems, is to force up house prices by hook or crook because, and here comes the payoff, because it makes Britons feel wealthier and encourages spending. And sharp falls in property prices would be disastrous for Britain's still fragile banking sector. Of course, higher prices simply make it harder for first-time buyers, which is where the government comes in to give them deposits, the money that they haven't got, to buy properties that they can't afford. And they can't afford them because the government scheme has... The very government scheme that is helping them buy properties they can't afford has raised the prices of properties to the level of inaffordability. I'm going out of my mind. I'm glad I did an easy subject like human beings at uni, psychology, much easier than economics, because my tiny mind is smoke. Smoke is actually coming out of my ears, trying to figure out the sanity of this. Among Halifax's data was the latest price-to-wages ratio for UK property, now at a heady 4.51. It used to be 3 in the worst phase of the 90s property crash. Says Andrew Oxlade, the personal finance editor at The Telegraph, would-be buyers should be warned that house prices are vastly overpriced and the government is determined to push them further. That's what he said. On the other hand, the influential Ernst & Young Item Club says Britain's property market is in a win-win situation. Now everybody's happy. Oy. And on that note, it can only be a win-win if I introduce to you Christo.
Good morning.
Christo.
Hello. How are you tonight?
I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Good. Well, that's the main thing.
Isn't it?
Yes. Coming up from 1 o'clock, I'll be here talking to you till 5, taking you through the night. We're going to talk about what's happening in Boston. I don't think it's something that we can ignore, really, but talk about it on a more general level and whether you think terrorism actually works. Because I'm sorry to say, I think that there are some cases in which it does. We'll also talk about beggars, how you deal with them, and whether the tide has turned and whether we are now sexist against men.
On FM, online and digital radio, London's biggest conversation.